looking forward to it myself. Quickly to introduce everybody, we've got Fran Zandanella. She's with Rhythm and Hues. Anybody here read credits of movies?
I read them.
You're going to see a ton of Rhythm and Hues credits. And we have next to her Joe Gillen, referred to as Joseph. Yeah, okay. Joseph. Yes. We have Joseph Gillen here. Many talents, but especially special effects and animation. And next to Joseph, we have Mike Valakek, who's in charge of who created and runs the Canadian Animation Resources. And at the end of the line is Dominique Dussault, and she is with versioning, French language versioning of Teletoons, as well as the pitch person for Teletoons. Briefly, there's a lot of accomplishments at this table here. So just to get things started, I'd like to ask each one of these panelists a brief question, and they'll have a brief answer, and then we'll get into a more developed conversation. So start with Fran, since she's beside me. Fran graduated from Sonora High in 1984. I don't know if anybody can picture the 1984, but computers were not common. And
PCs were brand new.
And I was still cutting film, putting it together with tape, using optical printers, all of that kind of stuff. So I have a question for Fran. She must keep up to date on computer technology in order to do her job. And it's an overwhelming amount of information that comes at us every day. How do you pick and choose what you're going to do to keep yourself current and up to date?
Well, for me, the first thing is I'm a member of both the ACM and SIGGRAPH. I attend SIGGRAPH every year. I'm on LinkedIn and keep up with what my friends are doing, particularly people in the Bay Area, because a lot of times people are working on technology in the Bay Area that you won't hear about in the public. It won't be for sale for many years. Also, I look at other industries to see what they're doing, get ideas for something new. For example, I was out on the floor looking at some of the things people were doing with games and looking at, could I take some of the game technology and apply it to doing some pre-viz for film. So I'm always keeping my eye out. I do a lot of web surfing. Slashdot used to be big for getting things. Actually, I don't prefer to be reading all that stuff myself because it's a huge amount. My office mate used to read it, and we talk about different ideas. And so a lot of it is just keeping contact with your friends. And if you're somewhere like New Brunswick, if there isn't a lot of tech happening where you're at, get online and find out where that tech is happening, and become part of that online community. And I think that's actually been true for a long time in tech. I mean, this is something that I've always done. I've actually been on the internet since 1984, and so going out and looking around to see what's out there, it's how I concur.
Because I found it to be overwhelming sometimes.
It is, and it's interesting because even 10 years ago, it's like I was doing stuff, I was doing Mac, PC, Unix, and Linux. Now everybody wants you to specialize in only one thing, and a person could specialize in something as small as the iPhone. They're only doing iPhone stuff. So it's kind of spread out now, and it's people don't expect you to be able to do everything, but I like doing everything. It makes it a little bit more challenging.
I've got I'll ask Dominique, one of the things that she's been in charge of is versioning. Anybody know what versioning? It's where you'll take, say, an animation that's done in English and you'll put it in French or Spanish or Japanese or whatever. Some of the projects go into as many as 14 different languages. And there's easy ways of doing that and there's hard ways of doing that. So are there any aspects of it that that you would want to mention? Any aspects of doing a foreign version early on in the production stage?
If you had a huge budget, it would be fantastic to have all the signage and the name of the store, everything you'd be able to put it into another language. Unfortunately, with budgets, you probably cannot do that. So we've learned to adapt just the titles. If you've ever watched The Simpsons in French, we just subtitle everything, and people have gotten used to seeing it that way. So it's really not a problem for the French market. I don't know how it is for other markets, but we just subtitle everything, and it's fine that way. But if you did have a huge budget and you were able to put French signage everywhere, fantastic. But unfortunately, I doubt that it will ever happen, especially when the version is done in English. Everything's in English, but I mean, our audience is fine with that. They can just read it, so it's okay. There's nothing special to keep in mind, I don't think.
What about the language track?
What about the language tracks?
Yeah.
Do you want me to explain a little bit how versioning works?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. So what usually happens is we'll get the completed English version with the mix and everything, and there are people whose job it is to adapt the script to the lips of the animated characters. So what they'll do is they'll write the script, and we call it adaptation. We don't call it translation because if a joke doesn't work with the lips, we'll change the joke so that it works in the French Québécois market. So there's someone who writes the script, and after that they put it on what's called a rhythmo band. So we go into studio, and what will happen is there will be a rhythmo band at the top of the screen, and the actor will act and read what's written at the top of the rhythmo band and interpret it as his character would, for example, Homer or Marge or whoever it may be. So it's a little bit of acting, it's reading, and there's not that many people who do it. So we have in Quebec, we have a limited amount of people who are able to read rhythmo bands. So Teletoon is trying to educate more people or get more people to be able to do that, because we find that we're getting the same voices over and over again in all of our animation. So one of our goals this year and next year is to get new talent on board for our adaptation. So is that kind of clear?
That's great.
Because that's pretty much my job, that's what I do, so.
Well, it's funny because I started out in pre-production years ago, and we would work on a lot of shows for Deke, which they sell all over the world. And we would get very specific instructions when you're doing location designs, that kind of thing, to avoid any use of language at all. Signage on stores, it was a pet shop, you drew a picture of a fish.
We do that. We do both. Like for shows that go to France, like a lot of the time they will. You can notice that the signage will be like little. It's not really written. It's kind of scribbled. Like Total Drama does that. But something like The Simpsons or Family Guy or American Dad,
Yeah.
You know, they haven't done it. They don't really care about the other markets that they're going into because they're so popular anyways, and it's fine. But we do have other shows, especially the ones that go for kids, that will make the special effort, and that's always appreciated. That's great. But if you can't, and if it hasn't been done, we'll just subtitle. It's not a problem. So
So I can tell you at both Disney and Pixar, they do all their internationalization at the end of the movie. So sometimes they will go back and reanimate some characters.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll go back and redo the backgrounds. But all of that is done after the movie is finished.
for
They
Canadian
have
productions, though.
They do, they have money, but that's
Yeah,
not it.
that's it. That's what I'm
Because they
saying.
have the
For original productions,
Or
that's
on TV.
That's my POV, is coming from original productions in Canada. We have limited budgets with our producers, and, you know, I know that a lot of them do try to avoid, they're like, oh, should we do it, should we not? Well, you know what, if you do want to have a big sign that says, don't go in the water, we'll deal with it when we come to post-production. It'll be fine. So, you know, we don't say, don't write anything in English ever, no. That's not a rule, it's not, we don't ask for that. If it's there, we'll just deal with it.
The point of that question was, I think animation, you have to consider an international market nowadays, just to increase the profitability. Next guest, Mike Valaket. He's created an organization called Canadian Animation Resources, and briefly, Mike, if you could just explain to the people here, what is Canadian Animation Resort?
Sure. Show of hands, who's heard of it? That's pretty good. Okay, actually. A number of years ago, I was working as a recruiter in the animation industry. I had nowhere to post jobs. It's pretty simple. AWN provides a service that it does, but as a Canadian producer, you're often forced to, you can only hire from within the province because of tax credit situations. And I would post a job there for $200 for a month, and and no matter how specific you want to be, Ontario residents only, New Brunswick residents only, I'd spend 3 days wading through 200 resumes from everywhere but the place I could hire from. Maybe find 2 that I could even look at. So there was a hole in the industry. And, we are this huge, physically vast country with pockets of production all over the place. And a varied community as well. We've got our NFB-oriented community. We've got the industry side. Gaming is growing. And then we've got this other sort of hybrid independent sector. And there was no one place to go online to access that. So what we try to provide is one central online resource for you guys, for everybody, even if you're a fan of animation. We keep it pretty personal. We don't want to become a big ungainly monster. I write on it every day. I basically share whatever I find that I find is relevant to the animation community. I've got a couple other contributors. We have up-to-date job board